last thing I wanted to just say. So I have one more topper. This is my last briefing, and it is, Brian. And I wanted to start with a series of thank yous. I promised myself I wasn't going to get emotional. Whew. Okay. Thank you. I want to say thank you to the President and the First Lady. There is a Biden family that is extended and expanded far beyond the Biden-named family. I'm not going to cry about the press team. Whew. Okay. Thank you to the press team. These people are already the stars of the team, but they're going to be shining stars in the future, and I'll miss them a lot. Okay. Whew. I promised myself I was going to keep it together. I'm not. This is the last part of this.
Thank you, Jen. We wish you well. Hope you enjoy it.
Can I do one more thank you? Because my husband is here, and I think anybody who is married with kids knows that without a remarkable spouse, you would never be able to. I wouldn't be here without him. Okay, go ahead. Now let's talk about serious issues. Go ahead.
I have a suggestion to this.
Thanks, Jen. Could you talk?
Why don't you take questions from across the room?
Brian East,
Jen, I have a suggestion today for your last press briefing. Why don't you take questions from across the room?
He suggested the administration has been aware
because that's what you've not been able to do for the past 15 months.
Is there a reason why the administration?
On the issue of the formula
Jen,
shortage.
can I ask you a question from the back?
Please stop.
I understand, but for 15 months you have not
On the issue of formula.
and I'm saying that for the sake of equity, we should
First of all,
have
thank you
questions
for your service, and thank you for your husband for his service as well. On the issue of formula, I think, if anything, this crisis has reminded everyone that this is
Simon, if you could respect your colleagues and other media and reporters in here, that would be greatly appreciated. Go ahead, Mary.
If anything, this has reminded, I think, the entire country and the world that this is not a luxury item, but an essential. Thank you.
We've got the baby formula challenge right now. Everyone's 401ks are not looking hot at the moment. Maybe I'm speaking for myself. Consumer sentiment today hit a fresh low since 2011. At its lowest point since then. Inflation, of course, is high. Gas prices are surging again.
He is mindful and focused on doing everything he can to give people breathing room and lower costs. And what we'd say to Americans also is look at the alternative. We all acknowledge inflation and cost is a challenging issue. What is the Republicans? What are they presenting as the option?
He likes to say the buck stops with him. Things aren't working. Is he frustrated with the circumstances? He's frustrated with his team.
When you've served, as the president has, as vice president for 8 years, you're pretty clear-eyed about the fact that leading the country means that the buck stops with you and that every challenge we face is on your desk. And he's very aware of that.
You must have some information on baby formula from these manufacturers, from the discussions that the president's been having. The administration's been saying that more formula has been produced in the last 4 weeks than the 4 weeks preceding the recall and the shutdown. So what is the best sense of a timeline for parents on how long this is going to be an issue and when in-stock rates are going to get better?
Well, there's a couple of issues at play here, Jackie, and this is a really important question, but it's hard for us to make an assessment from here.
And Elise Stefanik, and she tweeted something I will read to you, but several other Republican politicians have also gone along this line. She says, Joe Biden continues to put America last by shipping pallets of baby formula to the southern border as American families face empty shelves. She says this is unacceptable. Do you have a response to that?
CBP is following the law, but I would also note that we also think it's morally the right thing to do. This is a difference from the last administration. It is the law, but we believe that when children and babies I should say, are crossing the border with a family member, that providing them formula is morally right. And so we certainly support the implementation of it.
Pictures are emerging today from the border where the Biden administration has been sending pallets of baby formula for illegal mothers and their babies, while American mothers and babies cannot find baby formula.
CPI inflation is 8.3%. We know it's hard to get baby formula. Gas and diesel fuel is now record prices again today. House staffers are getting free Peloton memberships. A Monmouth poll says...
Well, there's a lot packed into that list there you have. I don't know how it's related. It's a potpourri.
Yeah, it is a potpourri. And it's a wider view. A Monmouth poll shows that 79% of Americans believe the country is going in the wrong direction. My question is the president, as the head of the country, as the head of the Democratic Party, out of touch economically with Americans?
Well, there was a lot packed in there, and I'm not entirely sure the root of your question, but I will do my best. And he has proposed and advocated for and continue to fight for a reconciliation package that will lower significant costs for the American people. I would say the contrast here is what the other side is offering, which, as you've heard me say many times, but it's worth repeating.
We saw the Department of Interior cancel a lease sale. So are there signals, to bring down gas prices?
Well, we know the Department of Interior made quite clear that they canceled the Cook Inlet project because there was a lack of industry interest. And there are almost 9,000 onshore permits. The issue is not permits. There are plenty of places for oil companies to drill on. They're not. That is the issue.
Suggestions for emergency situations would be to call your pediatrician, see if they have in-store samples or in-office samples, or go to the local food pantry. Clearly, you've outlined this as, there's going to be a range of sort of timelines depending on where you live in the country and where you shop. But say for big box stores, I mean the Walmarts and Giants and Kroger's, can you give us sort of a ballpark window for just realistically how many weeks or months parents are going to be having trouble finding it, or in-stock rates would start to improve?
Let me first say that the reason we suggest calling your pediatrician is because of this question.
Giving any sort of ballpark window of time, basically.
As quickly as possible is our objective, Jackie, but it's going to be different store to store.
On the House floor earlier today, the Democratic Majority Leader, Steny Hoyer, said, quote, "It is unfortunate that in a time of war that we spend all the time blaming our own president." Just a clarification, it's not the White House's belief that we're at war or we're engaged in any kind of conflict.
I think I did not see the full context of his comments, that obviously the U.S. has a stake in, given the amount of military, humanitarian, economic assistance we've provided.
Health Protection Act, which did not pass in the Senate, and of course that would codify Roe, but it would also go beyond that. Some opponents, like Senator Susan Collins, have pointed out that by codifying the federal right to abortion, the bill would necessarily strike down some state laws restricting certain procedures, for instance, banning sex-selective abortions and laws that require parental notifications for minors seeking an abortion. So should we read into the president's support of that legislation that he also supports overturning state laws that would ban sex-selective abortions or require parental notifications?
The president believes in codifying Roe, and there are a range of ways to do that through Congress.
That's not an answer to the specific policy question. Where is the president on these specific restrictions? No one here doubts the president supports Roe v. Wade and codifying it. But there's allegations that this proposed bill goes farther. So where does he stand on this specific?
The bill failed. The president supports the bill. And spend time digging, pushing, and questioning the policy teams, the better able you will be to answer tough questions, to answer the 12th question, and hopefully provide information to the public. And the last thing I would say is that it can be repetitive in here from time to time. That's not a critique. You are all doing your jobs. But in the age of social media, always provide the context and all the details, because you never want to be a meme with one line. That would be my treat. But otherwise, be yourself. And Corinne, as I said last week, is going to bring her own magic, her brilliance, her style to this briefing room. And always, for anyone who comes after me or Corinne.
Said that the administration has been on top of this issue since this issue emerged with the Abbott plant back in February, and you've been working on this issue since then. So can you explain why something like this, in terms of streamlining the import of products, wasn't done sooner, wasn't done before parents arrived at the supermarket to find empty shelves?
Well, we believe that part of what's happening right now is that there was supply that a lot of the larger retailers had, and it was kind of 6 to 8 weeks where they had that supply and they haven't been able to restock it quickly enough. That we're continuing to push states to do.
Is there more you think you could have done sooner?
Well, look, hindsight is always 20/20, but I would say that we have, what's important to note, as much as this wasn't being reported on because people were not seeing shortages at the stores as much, there was an announced recall back in February, right? And there were steps we have been taking every single day since then, with the FDA in the lead, to help address any particular.
White House reaction to Elon Musk saying today that his deal to buy Twitter is on hold while getting information on fake bot accounts.
Yes. I would say this is a transaction, a potential transaction, I guess we can call it at this point, from a private investor, and we don't have any comment on private transactions. Our views, broadly speaking, on the role of social media platforms and the need for reforms certainly still stands, but right now it's a reported view of a transaction of a private investor. Go ahead.
Brought by families that were separated at the border.
Yeah.
And at the time, the White House said, if it saves taxpayer dollars and puts the disastrous history of the previous administration's use of zero tolerance and family separation behind us, the president is perfectly comfortable with the Department of Justice settling with the individuals and families who are currently in litigation. CBS News review of court records published this week, however, finds that the Justice Department is actually seeking to dismiss all lawsuits filed by migrant families requesting compensation over the separations during the Trump years. Just curious, how do the Justice Department's moves to dismiss those cases line up with what was said here last fall and the overall commitment to bringing justice to these people? And is the administration willing to return to the negotiating table to try to forge some kind of a settlement with them, since the president, among others, has called that policy criminal?
It was, and the president believes it was horrific and inhumane. And our statement made last fall stands. Now, these are negotiations and discussions being led by the Department of Justice. I don't have any confirmation of that report. I'd certainly point you to them for the status of any discussion.